Good morning, everybody. Here we are with little baby Faith. Isn't she just a sweetheart? She is a very lightly painted little baby girl. She's like a brand new newborn out of the hospital, so she's got her hospital bracelet on. And she's got all them little red tones going on. She's got blue tones and veining in her head. She's got the sweetest little soft blonde eyelashes. And her nose is just a smidge bit runny today. Here's her passy. She may not keep that in all the time. She's got little Valentine shoes on here with little tiny hearts and bows on them and pretty ribbons. Aren't those sweet? They're the prettiest little Valentine shoes. And we're going to read a little bit of Peter Rabbit to you. Here's the Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. This is a very old book that I found. Isn't it beautifully inscribed? The Tale of Peter Rabbit. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter, and they lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. "Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. Oh, dear. Now run along, and don't get into mischief. I am going out." Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the wood to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. First he ate some lettuces, some French beans, and then he ate some radishes. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But around the end of the cucumber frame, who should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop, thief, you stop!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. And after losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have gotten away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net and got caught by a large button on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, and it was quite new. Oh, dear. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter, and Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind, and rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot. He began to turn them over, carefully looking under each. Presently Peter sneezed, and Mr. McGregor was after him in no time. Oh dear. And tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out of the window, upsetting 3 plants, and the window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter, and he went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest, and he was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp with sitting in the can, and after a time he began to wander about, going lippity-lippity, not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in a wall, but it locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone door step, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood, and Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him, and Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled, and presently he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans, and a white cat was staring at the goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive, and Peter thought it was the best way to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousins, little Benjamin Bunny. He went back towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch.